Hi guys, this is attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III, and we're going to be starting this video just like how we start all the videos, by giving the dogs way too many treats and fixing the microphone because it broke just the moment we went live. Excellent, so here we go. All right, let's go ahead and begin with the basics of what we're going to be doing on this show. As per the usual, we will go ahead and basically cover some of the basics. I did not get a chance to comb my hair, but that's okay, that looks even worse. Great. Howdy, Matthew, how we doing? Excellent, excellent. So we're going to have some people calling in shortly. What I want to do is go over just a couple of base details right up front. Let's go through these things real quick. So I want to go through some of our sponsors. Sponsor number one is Second Wave Masks. They're really cool. They customize them. They have really amazing textiles, and they're really cheap compared to most more, higher end masks and things like that. And basically, you're getting the quality of like a luxury mask for super cheap. But anyways, I really like them. They have all the little nose stuff, so you can do whatever you want with it. So I really like them. Second Wave Masks. If somebody can put the link in there for where the Facebook page or something like that, that would be perfect. All right, let's talk about our next sponsor, which is spaceconstitution.com. I've been working on that day and night, over and over again. Last night, we built the prototype for the trailer, just for the audio section. So the audio for the trailer of spaceconstitution.com, which is the first open source constitution. Anybody on Earth can go in and write about amazing rights that they want to have. And Dr. Spock actually really came up with some brilliant ones that have to do with what happens after you die, what rights you have when it comes to the resources of your body and things like that. So if you guys have any great ideas that should be rights for people that are creating new countries, such as, for example, on an island that pops up on a space station or another planet, that would be amazing. Okay, guys, so another thing, whatchamacallit, that I want to go through is kind of like the future of disability law. What's going on? What am I hearing? But for right now, let me check this out real quick. Okay, good. We're going to take this call. Okay, perfect. Howdy, good sir. Oh, here we go. Howdy, good sir. Attorney Walter Hnot. I just want to introduce you real quick. So this is a gentleman who basically recently was hearing, utilized some of the things that we details to kind of help you guys out. So good sir, take it away.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. I'm going to go ahead and position you a little bit better. There we go.
Just for clarity purposes, tell everybody that I am doing this voluntarily, and Walter helped by posting his free videos. And this is the honest goodness truth that happened Tuesday at a hearing I had in by telephone. Originally, the hearing was about 17 months in, was supposed to be in April, and it got a telephone hearing, and it got canceled because the judge had an emergency. So I just want to tell you guys a little bit about what happened at my hearing, but mostly what benefited me listening to people very nervous, and I have been watching a lot of Walter's videos, and in fact, I finally had the guts to call them about a week ago Thursday, and even I was very, very nervous. The best decision I made before my last Thursday was to have the guts to have Walter go through the run the hearing questions. And I was very nervous. I didn't want to do it, but then I was thinking, here he is offering his services, and listen to other people gone through them, how much it benefited me, even though everybody's situation is different. So that was a tremendous help, and he was very honest with his feedback. And his feedback, for those of you who either listen to it live or, like me, many people I know click on later on and watch the videos. What happened briefly last Thursday was, Walter ran through the questions with me, the hearing questions, and he was semi-hard on me, not very hard, nothing like what my judge did. And the most important thing that I got from that last Thursday was his honest feedback that I was sort of maybe flat in my delivery. Would you say something like that?
Yeah, that was perfect. Like that. A little bit flat, a little bit not personable, A
little bit flat, and this would be a week ago today, towards towards the end of the 2 hours he was doing. So he said, your story just sort of comes out flat. There's no emotion. I'm not hearing a story. I'm not hearing it. So, of course, I've been taking a lot of notes listening to him. But what I did last Thursday, which became crucial, Walter talked about, or what I heard was, and he kind of jokes and saying, you people suck. You people suck. How are you not ready for 2 years? And I was one of those people. Here I am. I have a master's degree. I am 59, so I did have that going in with me. But, educated person, have been watching videos, listening, and all this, and I still didn't have what Walter said I should have in front of me, which was 3-4 columns. And what first column is impairment? What are my impairments? What are my diagnoses, basically? Second was medication. And, what I'm taking, who it's given by, what it's for, side effects, milligrams. And then symptoms, the next column, which is things I cannot do because of my impairment. Him last Thursday, and it was a significant portion of why I won my hearing. Now, before everybody gets excited, how do I know I won my hearing Tuesday? Is that the judge basically gritted me out, which I wasn't expecting at all. And then he said, off the record, your attorney can tell you, basically, it's good news for you. And boom, he was offline. So how is that? So far, good?
That's excellent. Tell me a little bit about the emotion that was going through your mind before the hearing, during the hearing, and after the hearing.
Sure. So before the hearing, like everybody else, I imagine, I was very, very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I had done as much research as I was. I probably have watched, if not all, I would say over 8 of Walter's videos. And so, very nervous, had everything lined up and kind of preparing to go in and not feeling prepared, especially after last Thursday. But that really helped me because I prepared. I made the columns. And once I made the columns, I realized after I hung up with Walter how unprepared I was. So from Thursday night, literally on until Tuesday, every waking hour, I was reviewing and going over my questions and listening to, his advice. So unfortunately, I did have emotion. So before the hearing, super nervous. And I had looked up the judge that I was supposed to have in April. It was supposed to be same judge. And, I did everything Walter talked about. And, I was in a quiet room with my phone, headphones in, all by myself, ready. And right at 10:30 as scheduled, actually about 10:15, a person called. Number came up. I didn't recognize it, and she said, "I'm the recorder. I'll be calling you at 10:30, and we'll be doing the hearing, and just be in the quiet place." So, my heart is beating, even faster. And at 10:30, I am the first call. I am the first one she called. No judge on the line yet. No attorney on the line or anything, or just she just dialed. Shortly before that, the day before, I talked to my friends with some of the questions. Walter talked in his videos about what should you be asking your attorney.
Right.
A day before the hearing, a little late, some of the questions I got answered. So my attorney told me at 10 o'clock went over some of the things. And so judge comes on, and it's not a female voice as I expect. It's a male voice. And he shoots out the name. Of course, I can't catch the name, so I'm totally thrown out. It's a male. And then the VE, vocational expert, is a male voice. And my attorney is a male. And the only person which I didn't hear at all during the hearing is a female voice of the clerk, basically. So right off the bat, I was very thrown out, and thank goodness I had some sense. I mean, like a machine gun, just one after another, 2 to 3 times as fast as you did with me, Walter. I mean, he is.
They go so fast, right? They try to knock you out with their words. Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean,
Yeah.
so fast, so fast. So he's asking me, tell the truth, you know.
Right.
And you know, and it wasn't like half the answers he didn't even let me finish. I mean, before I could answer, boom, he was on to the next thing. He was like, you know, have you traveled out of the county? And I was like, well, yes, Your Honor. My orthopedic was LA, and boom, he's on to how about out of state? And before I said, how about out of the country? And boom, he moved on to something else. And I had traveled out of the state. So he goes on another question before I answered. And as I'm getting ready to answer that question, he goes back and says, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you left the state. And I have a record and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, well, Your Honor, you know, I was getting ready to tell you. He says, well, just remember to tell me. I mean, it was just going.
They're mean.
It was going down, downhill very, very fast. And then I did have a desk job, most of my, you know, a lot of sitting, maybe 60%. So the VE basically says, I cannot go back to my old job, which I knew was a very good news. And then he says, I could be a baker. And I'm thinking, baker? I can't do my sitting job, desk job that I had. How could I be a baker? At this point, I have no idea. I mean, my heart is beating. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to heck real fast. And then, you know, judge listens to him and says, okay, I'm going to grid him out.
Boom.
And all along, and he said, I'm gridding out. Your attorney will tell you what it is. And at the beginning, I failed to mention, he says, you know, I'm not going to call you by your name, sir. I'm just going to call you the claimant, okay? I mean, he doesn't even wait for an answer. And then he says, attorney, I'm not going to call you by your name. I'm just going to call you a representative. That's it. And if it wasn't for what you did with me last Thursday, this would have overtaken me completely. I would have been overwhelmed. I mean, I just overwhelmed. I mean, just total. Even though it was much faster than how you did it, it completely prepared me for how this guy was. So, you know, and we hung up, and the attorney called me back saying, "Oh, you gritted out. You know what that means?" And of course, I knew what that was. And I am almost 60, so I knew I had that, you know, advantage going out. So of course, you know, thrilled. That's the emotion afterwards. But you know, super helpful. Those of you guys who are listening. You know, if you think, you know, when you're running these things, I know it's scary, but I mean, here's this guy, Walter, offering this run question. Please, those of you who are listening or you watch this, once it's not live, take advantage of it because it is a gold mine. I mean, I cannot say enough. And it was completely different than how I sort of had to run it through with my wife and a friend of mine. Completely different. You know, it just didn't seem real when I was doing it with friends. So, yeah.
So I guess,
anything else, Walter?
you know, I guess when I think about it, and that's the big thing with these judges is that a lot of people don't realize, and one of the things I need to do a better job is being more aggressive with, you know, people when they go through the process of, you know, these questions. I think that the thing I worry about is if I'm too quick, if I'm too aggressive, then the person's not going to learn anything from it. But the reality is a lot of these judges, the speed at which the questions come is usually like this. Okay, so walk me through this. Do you have any cleaning bills? No, you're okay. Now walk me through this. You know, They go so fast, and that's a trick that they use. You know.
Yeah. That's exactly how it was on the cooking, on the household stuff.
Yeah.
Before I could even tell him about cooking, he moved on. I mean, he moved on. He completely left the house stuff. And he's completely moved on. But about 5 minutes later, he comes back to like who's helping at the house. So it wasn't like, you know, oh, I got to be prepared. And you know, in front of me, I have notes, so I moved the cooking aside. Here, I had the columns of the impairment, and I'm answering his impairment questions and boom, he came back to laundry for like a minute. But overall, it was about total from the time he got on and left, I would say it was about 30, maybe 34 minutes. You guys go back and watch his videos before the hearing. Until I did that, I was a mess. Even though I was listening all over the place, but you helped focus. And oh my gosh, what a gift!
I want to ask you this because I think this is a good question that a lot of people are wondering, because they see me do this, and of course the dogs are fighting under the table, right now. But I guess the big thing is, you tell me, what was the hardest question that you experienced while you were?
There didn't seem to be much of an order that he was going. It was very unexpected, like I said, like a machine gun. So the hardest thing was IBS issues related to mental health stuff, as well as side effects. And he really grilled the attorney than me because he couldn't find the medical evidence to support the IBS stuff that I kept mentioning to him about, enlarged prostate and diverticular, all these things. He said, I don't see that in medical record. When did you see the doctor about that? Was that ever? And I knew I had the medical record, but, I have no idea what he's looking at.
Right.
And of course, if I had listened to you instead of about a month ago when I started listening to you, maybe 3 weeks ago, if I had started listening to you 6, 8, 9 months ago, and, I don't want to give misinformation where you tell people how to go find out what is in their file.
Right.
That would have been super helpful to me. But by the time I really called you last Thursday, my hearing was coming up. There was no time.
Right. You were up against the clock.
Get the disc or anything. I was against the clock. So that's another super advice. It would have been really helpful to say, well, Your Honor, it's in whatever, 2017 and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But this guy wasn't listening. I mean, that was, so for me, that was the hardest question. But I told her to go over it. It's just kind of bringing up.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
The effect, but again, those of you who are listening or will watch this video whenever, give Walter a kudos any way you can by listening to him. And I mean, it is an absolute selfless help. I mean, I was telling a friend of mine about this after the hearing. He was like, why does he do that for? Is that how he gets clients? I said, 90% of people are calling him from out of state. I said, no, total service. This is service.
I'm helping people out.
Helping people out, total service. And so those of you who are listening, getting it, nothing is free in life. I know he's very low-key about asking for donations, and I'll do the pitch for him, Go pitch in if you feel this is a value. And I did it today, and I intend to do a little more for the puppies. Nothing compared to what he's doing. So thank you, Walter.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Well, good sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show and explaining, a side that I can't really explain to people because, when I sit there as an attorney, I've sat through so many of these hearings that I even feel myself becoming detached and jaded to the point where it's just kind of like, here we go, here's another one. And, it's one of those things where I don't have the connection anymore where I understand the nerves that people have. And I think it's so important, for people to understand what the emotion, like, when that phone rang, I can only imagine your.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I mean, I wanted that call to come in at 10:30 because I didn't want yet another delay.
Right.
Because I was ready in April, and what a blessing. I'm not a believer, but it's just how things worked out. If I would have gone in April, I am convinced this would not have been done. I mean, the VE did help me tremendously. But without your help, if I would have gone in April because I wasn't listening to you, this would not have been the outcome. I am convinced of that.
Well,
and I mean, I know when I sometimes started listening to you, sometimes I was like, gosh, he's telling people, you people lie, people do that. You're honest. I mean, I don't think you're jaded. I think it's hard to hear. I mean, sometimes I watch your videos, I'm like, oh my God, he's really come across sarcastic. That's not me. But it's hard to hear. We as claimants, we make mistakes and we think we're walking on hot coals and we're hot shots. We're not.
No, yeah.
I know I wasn't. I thought I was here. I thought I'm an educated person with some issues going on. I don't want to be in this place. And I thought I had it covered. Then I started listening to you. It's like, wow, incredible.
And the thing is,
I'll go so somebody else hopefully can get on and get some of your wisdom and use your time.
Perfect. Well, good sir. Thank you for coming on the show. Have an absolutely wonderful night and super congratulations.
Thank you so much. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you, good sir. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
So, guys, what I wanted, such amazing thing that basically he took. I got somebody else calling in. Let me get this. Howdy, good sir. Attorney Walter Hnot. Are you ready to go ahead and run some hearing questions?
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, just as a heads up, make sure you use a fake name. There's no attorney-client privilege because we're live on YouTube, and my dogs are officially fighting the table and probably will destroy it midway through this. So,
I've seen.
They're going for it too. I mean, they are. The legs of the table are afraid. I've been bitten once so far. I think I'm bleeding from the leg, but it's okay. That's part of the show. It's just a little bit of that, yada yada. All right, so good sir. Do you want me to go ahead and do this more of a instructional, relaxed type of ALJ, or do you want me to be more of an aggressive ALJ?
Well, I mean, I contacted you earlier today. Well, so I'm to give you a quick rundown. Bipolar 1. I've had some awesome, unbelievable, great jobs making six figures.
Mm-hmm.
Had a huge another episode. I've had this since 19 years old. Highly convinced to go through disability.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the medical records. My gas score runs between 50 and 35. I'm going through all this right now, and then it's like I'm listening to where they're going to tell me I can be a baker or something.
Right.
So that's kind of how do I prove I can't do any job.
Right. So the vocational expert portion is something that a lot of people don't are very out of control with. In fact, the judge, if somebody talks up, will tell them to shushy, that, basically this is just for the judge to be asking the vocational expert and the attorney to be cross-examining the vocational expert, which is why one of the things I always sit back and I go, it's nuts to go to one of these hearings. Even if you have a somewhat crappy attorney, to have them there to cross-examine the vocational expert is absolutely crucial, because that brings out the testimony that's necessary to show how you couldn't do the job. So this is how it works. You do your testimony. That's where you're examined and cross-examined by your attorney. And what happens during that is the judge is going through a list, an RFC list, a residual functional capacity analysis list, that basically talks about, okay, can this person climb ladders? Can they climb scaffolds? Can they climb ropes? Can they climb stairs? And they go through these things, can they, how far can they walk? How long can they stand? How long can they sit? Yada, yada, yada. They go through all these.
Or the questions to the vocational expert?
Those are questions to you. And as you answer them, the judge is basically putting together a list in their mind as to what their hypothetical question, what limitations the hypothetical question is going to include. So attorneys will usually say to basically the, I might have to grab the dogs real quick, but let me see. The vocational expert will usually say that, essentially, the administrative law judge will tip their hat usually during the hearing, during the vocational expert portion. And the reason why is that the vocational expert will go ahead and tell the judge, okay, this is work preclusive, this is not, this job's available. And then what will happen is the judge will say, okay, I'm going to give you another hypothetical. What if this person has this, and this limited, right? What if what if the person has, this, and this, where they can't do this? And that's the judge basically explain why you as an individual cannot do the jobs that the vocational expert would proffer. Now, a lot of people think the vocational expert is the definitive person that's going to decide the claim when it comes to a vocational allowance. They're not. They're only there to offer jobs based upon the hypothetical that essentially the judge will be asking them. And a lot of people think if the judge says, hey, ... right up front, are there any jobs in the national economy? No, then that de facto means disabled. That's actually not what it means. What it means is that basically for that singular hypothetical that was asked, just for that single question that was asked, that there were no jobs available, the judge could ask another question. What about if I put them into sedentary types of jobs? Are there jobs in the sedentary category that they could potentially do? And then what they look at is they go, okay, and they proffer those 3 jobs. And the judge looks at them and goes, okay, well, what if they have these limitations? What the judge is doing is in your medical evidence, and they're boiling it down to what they think you could not do at a job. And those could not do's are called RFC limitations. And RFC limitations, inability to climb a rope, inability to climb a ladder, inability to, do certain functional tasks, sitting, standing, pushing, pulling, crawling, whatever. The bottom line is those things represent your inability to do actual work-related functions. So let's take, let's say, so like, give me an example of a job. Just pick any job and I'll give you an example of it.
Janitor.
Janitor. All right. So a janitor, we're looking at standing for most of the time, right? You're going to be standing for 6 out of 8 hours. You're going to be pushing a mop. You're going to be pushing a vacuum. You're going to be wiping things down. So let's talk about that. Wiping things down. Number 1 priority, dexterity. So now janitor is going to mostly be, for the most part, gross manipulative skills because, right, you're holding something in your hand. That's what you're using to go ahead and go forth and basically wipe things down. Now, the other thing that you have to keep in mind is this. The janitor isn't going to be typing on a computer, right? So that means we don't have to worry about fine manipulative function of their hands. Now, what about if they have a mop and a vacuum? Mops, push and pull, right? What is the capacity of your weight, push, and pull ability? So, how much can you push? How much can you pull? How much can you lift?
Okay, so mind being mental. One day I could be a janitor. The next day I can't get out of bed, or the next day I'm having a manic episode, or the next day I'm screaming at my employer.
Sure.
So how do I So one day I can be a janitor. The next day I'm tweaking out.
So I am an attorney that does this stuff all the time. I have access to the vocational experts template forms, and I have access to specifically the things that they're looking for. And the judge is going to write down and say, hey, this is an option, that's an option, yada, yada, yada. So with your question of, hey, what about the mental side? What RFC limitations are they looking at for the mental side? Well, here are those. I'm just going to read them off so that you have them. We'll have some, but not substantial, difficulty understanding and remembering simple or complex or detailed tasks, interacting with the public. Will they have difficulty interacting with the public? What about coworkers? What about supervisors? What about others? Will they have difficulty sustaining concentration and persistence, adapting to changes in the work setting? This is one of those gigs where these are the things that they're looking at. Here are some more. Is the claimant or the hypothetical person able to understand, remember, and carry out simple? What about complex instructions? Remember, simple, detailed, and complex all mean a different thing in the legal vocational analysis. These are legal words that have a much larger definition. Limited to work that requires, and then here's the big thing that you need to understand about the vocational expert. There are 4 categories that most of this stuff fits into. And these are the amounts of time that you are basically, capable of doing these things at an actual job. So, for example, there's the NOFC. So the N stands for you can't do that thing at all. It ain't going to happen, right? It's too much going on. It's just not going to happen. The O stands for basically occasional, which is 0 to 1/3 of the time. The F stands for frequently, which is 1/3 to 2/3 of the time. And the C stands for constantly, which is basically 2/3 to all the time. And so what that means is when you hear them talking about, what about crawling, reaching, what about selling or whatever? What they're doing is they're giving you a breakdown of the amount of time that you could potentially do a job in the national economy for that particular functional capacity. And let me read for you some of these functional. Well, actually, let me read the rest of the functional capacities for the mental. So, for example, you have limited to work that requires supervision. Is it no, occasional, frequently? Limited to work that requires interaction with the public, coworkers, supervisors, others. Are you able to, or unable to concentrate and persist for simple, detailed, or complex instructions at 2-hour segments or more? Are you limited to work that requires possibly no, occasional, or frequent changes in work setting? Remember, no is you can't do it at all. Occasional, 0 to 1.
Are you asking me?
No, you're totally, you're totally left out of the equation. You are, so
Okay.
at this.
How is that determined? I guess as I go into this, not knowing that I can't really, other than an opening statement, if I'm just by myself, I'm not sure what I can add to it as far as, those types of things. How does that get to determine that I can occasionally clean a floor?
So you're worried about the vocational expert section because you feel like you're out of control.
I feel like, based on the medical records, I've had this disease since I've been 19. One, I understand they get this, denied quite often, but this is real, and then I'm listening to a lot of the stuff, and I'm not understanding how they are magically determining what my capabilities are.
But what happens is, okay, so first and foremost, if you feel like you're out of control during the vocational expert portion of it, it's because you are completely out of control. And that means that you don't get to talk during this section. You don't get to jump in. You basically sit there while the judge asks the vocational expert questions. And then if you have an attorney, which is why I think it'd be insane not to have one, if you have an attorney, they will then cross-examine the vocational expert. And the reason you're not allowed to cross-examine the vocational expert is because you don't have an understanding as to what the DOT and SCO guidelines are for what the vocational expert, is proffering to the court. And it's a vocational expert. They're not babies, so they should be able to handle it and answer it and do the thing. So, okay, let me kind of go through this. Basically, when it comes to the situation of vocational experts and when it comes to the situation of that section, people are always like, well, how do I beat them? The way you do the best job you can is by feeding information to the judge as to the limitations of your functional abilities. So I'll just read you a couple on the list again, like climbing ramps and stairs, climbing ladders, ropes, and scaffolds, balancing, stooping, kneeling, crouching, crawling, reaching, accommodations, color vision, field, exposure to weather, extreme cold, extreme heat, wet, and humidity. These are all factors that if you can explain in your testimony, your limit, if you can get the judge to limit your RFCs, your residual functional capacities, and they'll create a hypothetical that they will then give to the vocational expert. And when they give that vocational expert their hypothetical, they'll limit your abilities, which means there's less of a likelihood that you could do the jobs that the vocational expert is giving back.
So is the judge going to go through a list of questions like, can you climb, can you crawl, can you, all those things that you mentioned, and I'm going to get an opportunity to answer? Or
no, you don't answer, you don't talk, you don't do any of that stuff. The only thing that happens is the judge will ask the VE for hypotheticals, or rather, the judge will ask the VE for jobs within their hypotheticals, and then your attorney will get to cross-examine the vocational expert thereafter.
Yeah.
To that point of it, you don't chime back in until the end of the hearing. That's it. You're basic. I try to use a rider mower, but it causes basically bouncing up and down, and also I can't be in the.
If you could keep it on a like a bipolar level.
Oh, sure. So we'll do. So bipolar. So, okay. So let's say that you're working at, a store and you're a cashier, and it's one of those gigs where you have to go ahead and service customers, and people are coming up to the line, and the judge will say, okay, okay. So, tell me about your past work. And you'd be like, well, I was a cashier, and, I had to go ahead and basically interact with customers back in the day. And then the judge will say, okay, well, how do you deal with, coworkers, bosses, family, friends, and the general public? And then you would break it down. You'd say, well, Your Honor, the difficulty I have is I have a hard time doing detailed tasks or detailed and something else. The other thing is that, I have a tough time basically adapting to changes that happen. So let's say that, something like an alarm went off in the store. I would have a hard time basically getting back to work, and I'd be off task for an extended period. One of the other things that happens is sometimes I get really scared due to my anxiety, and I have panic attacks, and I leave to go to the bathroom. And when I go and do this, I'm off task for an extended period, which is why I almost got fired. Another thing is that when it comes to my concentration and keeping pace with other people that have this job, I have a hard time keeping pace with other individuals because they seem to be able to learn things faster, apply them better, and then go ahead and interact with the clientele and get them to buy more things, which I think is amazing for them, but something that's very terrible for me. Another thing is that this job tends to be very fast-paced, specifically because I was working whatever. I don't know why my mind went to Circuit City, but they're out of business. But it could be whatever. Any kind of store that has a lot of people coming in and out, I have to fast-paced, high production, kind of workflow, and that's just not going to work for me. And then that would be a great point to put in there. I also worked as a janitor, and as a janitor, that was significantly slower paced with repetitive work. But the problems I had with being a janitor is that when it came to going ahead and doing things on a continuous nature, I would often get distracted because I would just get bored, and then all of a sudden I was doing the wrong things, or I wasn't doing them at all. I was sitting in a room. So I had those difficulties. Don't forget, with bipolar, the big thing is you're on a huge roller coaster up and down. And that's with your emotional context of, hey, like I'm feeling really great right now. And then all of a sudden you're just basically trying to tear somebody's throat out. Being able to explain, don't even know what impairments are, let alone in story form, explain how their bipolar and depression affects their ability to interact in a job environment is key. So let me give you an example when it comes to bipolar. When it comes to bipolar, you want to be able to talk about the things that trigger the other side, the aggression and things like that, because nobody's worried in that courtroom about the side when you're happy and everything's cool and everything's wonderful. The only time they really want to know that is the counterpoint to how much of that do you have per month versus how much of the being super angry and aggressive do you have per month. So the bottom line here is this: when it comes to basically, this thing where you're explaining your emotional angst and how angry you are and how you're and all these things, the main focus is to make it so that the judge can see why these jobs piss you off. And a lot of people don't realize why these jobs are so. Women are abused with that stuff all the time because people say all these horrible things to them and they're mean to them. When it comes to material work, you're on your feet all the time. Your hands are constantly blistered from having to work things, and basically you're dealing with disgusting stuff, which are usually could be business waste, it could be kids throwing up, it could be anything. Or for example, if you're a cashier, you're dealing with people who are just mean to you because of the procedures you have to follow. You're just there to follow your job, but they don't care. So being able to explain why these people in these jobs are so terrible and getting the judge to link that is kind of step one. Step two is that basically when you get them to understand how terrible those actual people interacting with your job are, you have to be able to show them why a normal person would be able to do it without issue. They'd be able to deal with it. I'm cool, they're cool, everything's fine. But you have to show what in you triggers you to not have the other people. Now, a lot of guys like you, when you say, I'm bipolar, when you talk about and I blow up, I get angry. The most important part of your testimony is not when you blow up and get angry. The most important part of your testimony has to be the story between when you're happy to basically when you become angry. That story between when you're happy to when you become angry is the most important part of bipolar. And the reason why is that's where you sell the judge on how you as a human being are struggling. Because if you tell the judge, I'm angry, you're given the chorus of the song too soon. You're given the big part of the play way too soon. And the problem with that is that the judge doesn't have a storyline to connect the dots. And remember, guys, the judge is always going to be a human being that likes a good story. Okay, I don't care who the judge is. They always like a good story. When the judges go home at night and they're tired, they turn on the TV and they watch story information at a high level, which means their brain has the capacity as a judge to go ahead and look at something and pull it apart. So the moment you say something to them that doesn't make sense or doesn't line up, they're going to pounce on you and really go after you.
Yeah. So
it's during those generic questions that they're asking about. Tell me about. It's an open-ended question. Tell me about your work history, or and as soon as you start, that's when they'll start asking, digging deeper, further questions. Or I'm sure it's probably different for each judge.
So here's the thing, that what you just said is kind of odd. It's the attorney's job to get the good testimony out of the claimant. It's not the judge's job. So when a lot of people are like, well, when will the judge ask me about this? It's not the judge's job to get good testimony out of you. It is your attorney's job to get good testimony out of you. The judge will do this. So walk me through this. Do you have any difficulty with cooking, cleaning, laundry, or paying bills? And you're sitting there going, I hate being in this room. Nah, I don't have any issues. Boom. You have just been found not disabled, right? You missed opportunities to talk about how you can't focus, you leave things on in the kitchen, you don't, you never clean anything, you're used to burning things, the laundry, you can't lift the basket, you forget to go ahead and switch it from the washer to the dryer. You missed an opportunity to really do an amazing job. It happens all the time. A lot of people are like, I won't say anything stupid. You guys don't even know when you say something stupid because you don't know what the code is. When somebody's like, well, I was walking along and, I jumped over the curb and a curb is actually in the statute language for the abilities of an individual to go ahead and walk. They don't realize, like, the curb is the same thing as a tree that's on a path that's come down for a homeless person. Same analysis, same gig. It's all part of a statute. So the moment somebody talks about, hey, I gotta walk over a curb and get over the car, boom, very, very dumb thing said by a person that just didn't think about it. Yep.
Well, thank you very much. I guess I'm having a hard time piecing together what is said in the medical record and what the questions the judge is most likely going to ask. And obviously, if I'm truthful, I'm obviously diagnosed as I've, like I said, I've been hospitalized 6-7 times. But I hear stories of people trying to do this. I mean, I would much rather make $12 grand than $2 grand a month in Social Security.
Right.
But how do I make sure I establish that credibility without sounding manipulative?
Well, all right, let's do this, because I think you're approaching it in a tough way, which is to doing it is if they're going to teach you about something, they should teach you what the tools are that create things, and then basically the products that can be made from them. And the only way you're going to really get this, and you already have a basic knowledge here as to what the tools are, right? You know what types of questions are going to be coming. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos on here before. You've got the tools, but now what you need to do is figure out what you're going to make with them. So if you're okay, I'm going to beat you up like one of these judges.
Okay.
Good, sir. Go ahead and state your full name for the record. Fake name.
Timothy Joseph Johnson.
What is your current age?
51.
Date of birth?
6/22/69.
Left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
When was the last time you worked? 2017. So in 2017, what were you doing?
I was working at a factory.
What kind of factory?
Sticking vape products and vape boxes.
Okay, excellent. And what happened to that job?
I was fired within a month.
And why were you fired?
They told me, he said, we just can't have you out there. I heard from one other person that I needed to work one speed. Some days I would come in there, I'd be working 90 miles per hour. Then next time I was almost asleep. I didn't even realize this.
No, so let me ask, okay, so I'm going to point out right there was the perfect, doing great. The speed is up. Everything's easy to kill whoever's next to me. Let's do it again. We're going to do it quickly, though, because this is the speed at which you're going to have to come out. Good, sir. Can you walk me through what happened with your past job? You got terminated from it, correct?
Yes, correct. I would go in some days. I would feel great. I would be one of the top boxers. The next, I may go in and I'm working with a coworker, and she starts talking about her lesbian fantasies, and it pisses me off. And all of a sudden, I start getting in an argument with her and her girlfriend, and the supervisor's coming over, stopping this whole discussion that's inappropriate for the workplace. And I'm just pissed off at them. Which then I'm getting reprimanded, and the next thing you know, a week later, they're like, you gotta go. And when
10 years from now, I could be a judge. Do you feel I'm connecting well to your lesbian story?
I don't know.
Well, let's think about analysis. Do you think my brain really dug its teeth into your lesbian story?
I don't know.
All right, so let's go through the basis. It's a lesbian story, so right off the bat, my brain is like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
This is true.
Yeah, why is he talking about lesbians fighting at a vape production factory? Why are lesbians at a vape production factory? Why is he at a vape production factory? Why is this happening? Why is he angry? These are women talking about things that they like. Why doesn't he just walk away? Why can't he just handle his own stuff? My brain is turning against you. You didn't make me like you there. Let's try it again. Good.
There was not a huge explanation, but I can tell you some days I walked in, I felt great. I was tough. You know, they counted how many cases you boxed. I was excellent. And other days I would go in not motivated, I'm tired, and, you know, it's a factory and I'm not used to getting micromanaged. Somebody's over my shoulder yelling at me, go faster, you need to do this. And I blew up at them. I know how to pack a box. You know, I have a 4-year degree. I've made 6 figures. You know, come on, leave me alone. And, you know, constantly getting in an argument with them over how many boxes and whether I was going fast enough to the next time they're telling me.
Would it be better if you understood why? Do you have a letter from your employer to submit to the judge as to why you were terminated?
I do have one headhunter. I've been fired from 5 or 6 jobs. Again, I was making 6 figures selling global networks to being let go from a janitor position, being let go from a vape factory, being let go from a Tito's factory. You need to consider, you know, applying to this building. And I want to go back to doing what I was doing. I want to go back to being. Okay,
I'm gonna be you now. If it's okay with you, I'm gonna do your job. I'm gonna cut you out of this for a moment, and I'm gonna do your job. Good sir, I want you to ask me why did you get so? Just like how I asked you, I want you to now ask me, and I'm gonna be you.
Okay. So tell me about your last position and what happened.
Your Honor, here's the problem. Okay, I've been fired from a lot of jobs, and it's not that I don't want to work. I love working. I absolutely love it. I think I get along with people really well. And the thing is, I noticed, you know, there were termination after termination after termination, and there were things that kind of said no. Bless their souls. They sat me down and they said, "Look, you've got to." I wanted to be the best husband I could be, and so what I did was I took the steps to get a mental review. I took the steps to go and see what was going on, and they were right. And there were a lot of problems. And we've been trying medication, we've been trying therapy, we've been trying all kinds of things to get me better. But when it comes to that last job, I blew up on some people that I shouldn't have. And the problem is that I can't control when I lose it with these people. And I just think when I'm getting angry that other people will agree with me as to the stupid things that they do, but they don't agree with me, and then I get fired. And, you know, they were talking about silly stuff, like the lesbians chatting about lesbian stuff, you know, it's just now. And then ultimately they came to me a week later and they terminated from my job. And things have not been the same with my wife since then. So, you know, basically this is a situation where I unfortunately I can't focus like I used to. All the other employees there are working a lot faster than me. And it makes me look bad because I have a degree, I have a background, I have a knowledge, and I should be able to do it. But I can't do it. So I'm stuck here sitting in front of you. Okay, so good sir, you tell me what was different from what I did and what was different from what you did.
Well, obviously you're a little more eloquent and experienced in answering that question.
Yeah.
The same exact thing that you said, but you said it in a different manner, and you know, that's what I'm talking about. Because you can look at things from an objective standpoint. You're saying exactly what the situation is. I mean,
well, I know you guys. Like I had you as a claimant this week. I did. I had a guy that was just like you, around your age, same background, same yada yada. It wasn't a vape factory. It was a, you know, I'm not going to, because I don't want to ever release too many facts about an actual claimant that I have. But the bottom line is, it was a situation where they were in the same thing. And your greatest deficit, your greatest delusional problem is that you don't get it. That you're the type of guy that when you get angry, people think you're going to hurt them. And that's the big thing that you don't get. You're like, I just can't understand. And you're the type of guy who people are sitting back going, oh my God, is he going to punch me in the face? I mean,
I don't think I will say that I think, to your point, I can, when I see something really wrong, or I have no problem stating that. And then, you know, I can tell you, even with my therapist who was Googling what type of, I was complaining about different symptoms, and she's Googling maybe how much of a depth code level, etc. And I call her out on it. Like, are you serious? Are you, I mean, like, I'm not stupid. I can understand enough. You shouldn't be Googling what's my, you're guessing. You're Googling it. And
good thing they are, though. Imagine if they didn't.
You know, and I would insult her, you know. And in turn, what happens when I do make people angry like that, of course, they find a way to get me back. They say, oh, and they put in the notes, they know I'm going to disability. They put in the notes, secondary gain, and he looks great. He's fine. Meanwhile, I'm on 4 different meds that are extremely high doses. I had a situation where the police pulled me over, I was going through a manic episode, charged with a DWI. The results come back, nothing in my system. I wake up the next day, I'm charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They said I used my truck as a weapon. It must have pissed that cop off for him to add those charges. So yes, I mean, after sitting down with my mother and my wife, obviously I am doing something police public that not only am I setting those people off or maybe scaring them, but they're returning the favor back to me.
So here's the thing with retribution, because you're accustomed to retribution. You piss somebody off in a way that they go home thinking about you. And, you know, that is a trick, because if you do that with the judge, that might help you. That might be to your benefit. Here's the thing. Your type of personality, your type of, I'm not an idiot, I know what I'm doing, why are you doing that? That type of personality tends to flare up the most when it comes to expectations. And specifically, if we break it down to like a thing that you're doing, that would be the best thing to talk about, how you have lack of control, would be when you're ordering at a restaurant. So you tell me, when you're ordering at a restaurant, when was one time when you were ordering when it went to hell?
Previously, and I'm super kind to people that are in that position. So maybe that's probably a bad, I've never blown up at a restaurant or anything like that.
When was there some time that you ordered something? Could have been something through the mail, something from a store, didn't come in, you got it, it was broken, it was the wrong color. When was there a time when you lost your cool when you ordered something?
Well, I bought a used Volvo.
Sure.
And I had brought it home.
Yeah.
And I want to say 8 months into it, I was losing oil, and I couldn't figure it out. And I checked the oil oil. There was no oil in it. This is
Oh,
a
wow.
certified car.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a problem. I think I put in 4 quarts of oil, and you know, it was a $13,000, $14,000 car.
Sure.
And of course, the engine cost more than the car did replacement. So, you know, I gotta be honest. I talked to the dealership, and they agreed to, you know, put in a new engine if I went and bought the engine. So I'm trying to think of a time where I've blown up on those things. A lot of times I think I'm fine, but then again, some days, you know, maybe to deal with that engine, instead of dealing with it the next day when it's real important, I can't get out of bed, so I don't deal with it for 2 weeks.
Okay,
You know,
so all right.
I think what I love most about it is that the banker was so long, and then that one scene where he's walking into the bank with his shoes on,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, after all this time, the warden's gonna get it.
So,
You know?
so you like retribution. You're like that guy that gives it to people, and then you're like, "What the? They give it back to me. I don't deserve that." I love it. That's good. But that's good. That's your best selling point. You're the you know, you're the I like giving it, but I don't like getting it, because when you get it, I mean, if the police are giving it to you, nobody likes getting that. But like, here's what I would say: if you could go watch storytellers talk about their films behind the scenes, that is key for you to learn how to basically tell a story, because they're going to sit there and sum up an entire film in one sentence. There's no summary like people. There are no bullet pointers as great as filmmakers, because they have to take massive emotional gestures and put it into a single sentence. You know, you could have a film of like this guy who might have a hidden superpower, and he meets this vampire, and she's this chick, and she just takes him on all these crazy adventures, and he ends up almost dying. And literally the storyteller would sum it up as, this is about a man who met the wrong woman. And right off the bat, you're like, whoa, 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 what about all this other stuff? But that's the thing. You got to bring it down to the most important points. And then you have to put in little sections of it. That scene in that movie, do you feel a judge would connect with the absolute most?
I think the part on where they're doing the roof,
Mhm.
and he says, "Do you trust your?" And I can't remember the line. Do you trust your wife?
Mhm.
And then he explains how they can do something in the income taxes, and you know, next thing you know, he does it, and they're sharing a 6-pack of beer, car, and a roof, feeling like humans.
All right, so I get you now as a person. You've told me enough about you where I know what type of person you are and what you've been through. So you're the type of guy who likes to. That's a tricky personality, because you're the type of guy that's hard to impress, but you like the idea of over impressing the other person so that they respect you more after the exchange that you have with them. Do you feel a judge?
Well, I
go
was
ahead.
in executive sales. You know, my greatest enjoyment was going into a boardroom of people shaking their head no, at the end shaking their head yes, signing a multi-million-dollar contract.
Mhm.
That's what I enjoyed. That was what my passion was.
So ever since that job, you've been living in this bubble of not succeeding at the level you should have. That's okay. I live in that all the time.
I think I've gone to 1 or 2 other jobs that were similar, but
Mhm.
After this last incident with the police, we get results back from the lab.
Sure.
You know, I go from that to working in a janitor. I'm not. I mean, here's the deal. Whatever it takes. I'm a whatever it takes type of person. So it's not like I feel like it's beneath me, but it's like it took me a while to kind of listen to my mother and my wife to say, TJ, there's something wrong here. You gotta admit it now. You've been denying it for so many years, You got to admit it.
So I guess what I would say about this is you have to look at it from the judge's perspective, because you're selling to the judge. And I know what you're thinking. It's a judge. How do I sell to a judge? Right? It's this guy in a black robe, woman with a black robe sitting in front. How am I going to? You're going to sell them just like how you would sell a multi-million-dollar contract. Now, I'm going to test your saleability. I'm going to test right here. This piece of paper, I'm going to now hand to you. And you were going to try and sell me that piece of paper. Go ahead. Sell me the piece of paper.
As you can see in my hand, this piece of paper. Now, how many times have you used this type of paper before? Did you feel it? Did you touch it? Have you ever seen a piece of paper like this before?
Okay, so right off the bat, are we really selling paper? I mean, think about it. It's paper. Who cares about paper? This is the way I would approach it.
The value of that paper.
Right. So it's okay. Tell me the value of the paper.
So the value of this paper is that you don't have to worry about recycling. If you're worried about the environment, this is a fiber. There's the thing. I mean, it's my whole life professionally, and I'm even. This goes to the point you make on your videos where you're like, and then they ask him what his name was and what his age was, and I'm freezing on a question that I should have been in sales my whole life.
All right, hand me a piece of paper. You're going to hand me a piece of paper. You do the same thing I did.
Okay. Here's this piece of paper.
I've got this piece of paper. All right, so what do you want me to do with this piece of paper?
You're going to sell me.
All right, so I'm going to sell you this piece of paper that I've got right here. I got to sell you this piece of paper. All right, gentleman who has some family members that were recently upset, and I feel bad about it. And these family members, they were upset that you have because basically they had to go to a funeral recently for one of your relatives, and that was your great-grandmother. And your great-grandmother had instructions, and she didn't have a great relationship with you. She didn't get to see you a lot. But she wrote down the things that she wanted you to know on this piece of paper. And she wrote down the things that she wanted you to have on this piece of paper because she really did care about you, even though you didn't get a chance to connect with her. And it's now coming into my possession. What are you going to pay me to get it?
It's priceless.
It's priceless.
What do you need?
It's priceless, right? Piece of paper, but it came from somebody who loved you, who's now gone. What's that worth? I don't know. What's that worth? I don't know. So what did I just sell you there?
You sold me on the mystery of what's on that piece of paper, tying it to relatives and family.
So what do you think when you talk to this judge? What do you think is important to this judge?
I think credibility, because you see all this. I'm not, again, there are people I can tell you where I went to this center, and I've been prescribed Ambien to go to sleep. I say I've been going there a year and a half. I want to get some Ambien. They're looking at me like I want to sell this shit on the street. You're working homeless. It's like you're working homeless. It's like a homeless methadone community clinic. And here's this blonde-haired guy who doesn't seem to fit in at all there, nor does he look like he really has a problem. So he must be wanting to sell this Ambien, which sent me to the moon, with those people. So I digress. I got off track thinking about that story.
All right.
What was the question?
Let's go back to what the question was. The question was, what do the judges care about? The judges care about family, their children. They care about basically you being an honorable, hardworking individual who can't work anymore. They care about your credibility. They don't want to be lied to. They care about you basically being a good human being. So when you tell a story, you better tap into kids, doing a good job of being a good husband, being a hard worker and people respecting you for it, and being honest even when it costs you.
Yep, you just described it.
All right, are you ready for me to beat you up?
Sure.
I'm going to get you pissed off. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Take a moment, take a little break, relax the shoulders. Let me know when you're ready. Sir, walk me through this. What is something that your wife did recently that really angered you?
Well, she got home. She got home from work, and it's one of those things I understand. I'm home. I'm not working. And things, I guess, that she asked me to do in the morning that I didn't do. And she was screaming at the top of her lungs at me. And I'm telling her, why are you so bent out of shape? Just let it go. You know, and then I start hearing the whole litany of not doing anything around the house. You're not contributing anything financially. I'm responsible for everything here. And I keep telling her this is temporary and hold on. And, you know, that's not going to last forever. But this disease has definitely taken a serious toll on our relationship. And it's constantly talking my wife off the ledge.
So wait a minute. So why doesn't your wife understand that you're having a tough time? And what's wrong with her to not grasp it, to get it?
No, she does. I'm not saying that she doesn't. Obviously, we got married 3 years ago, and she's known me for 7.
Mm-hmm.
But when she first met me, I was working a great job, I was a great provider. She had her own kids. I bought a house. You know, when we got married, her kids have moved in. You know, she was working, making $8 an hour. I was supporting everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this accident happened in December, and next thing you know, I'm on short-term disability. I want to go back to work. I go back to work. They fire me immediately. I have all these charges. I'm not able to get a job. I have to wait a year to find out the test results. There are no drugs. There are no alcohol. And, you know, and then I get these menial jobs. I'm willing to work, and then I'm getting fired from those jobs. She's like, something's got to change. I'm reaching the end of my rope. Only one working, and all her money's going to the bills, and everything else going to credit cards. And quite frankly, I don't blame her for being upset at me. I don't. I can empathize with her. It still doesn't make me feel good when I'm getting screamed at the top of my lungs, you know, or at the top of her lungs.
Are there family members that judge you?
I think the ones that judge me are no longer, I don't really have contact with them. And my mother's very sympathetic. She's a Methodist minister and also a licensed clinical therapist. So she deals at her, you know, she's my mother, so she's not my therapist. We've had a strained relationship. And for the most part, you know, I didn't even be mad at my wife, you know, for being screaming at me. I understand it.
You are showing me the exact opposite thing that I would show a judge. And the reason why is you are showing me compassion, understanding, and connection with your family, instead of showing me lack of understanding, you know, this lack of empathy and uncontrolled, doesn't get it, like, you know, yada yada. And I need a little of that with you, but you understand that. So what seems to be a problem nowadays, now that you're not working? I mean, are you okay now that you're not working?
No, from a financial aspect, I certainly have fears that I'm going to end up homeless. You know, I probably owe $50,000. You know, I'm if something happened to my wife's job, we would lose this house. We'd lose everything. You know, I've been sitting on the edge now for almost 2 years waiting for this hearing. Mm-hmm. So the certain extent, I've been beat down so much I don't even know if I can get angry. I'm sure once I'm out there in the workforce and I'm working.
How often per month do you lose? Yeah, like how often per month do you lose your temper?
5, 6 times maybe. To be honest, I'd have to ask my wife because I don't even realize I'm doing it.
Why don't you realize you're doing it?
To your point earlier, I just see it as I'm having a mild argument. You're seeing it like I'm going to punch you in the face.
Mm-hmm. So you tell me, what am I missing here from this? Why is this something?
My own perception of things, obviously, is not the reality perception.
Right.
That other people, police, employers, co-workers, the society is seeing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to run some quick questions with you. You're going to have a few seconds to answer per each. You're not going to be able to keep up. This is exactly like the hearing, like the person that came up that spoke at the very beginning of this whole talk. You're not going to have enough time to figure things out. And then at the end of it, I'm going to show you how I'm going to find you not disabled. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Good, sir. Go ahead and state your full name for the record.
Timothy Joseph Johnson.
Why are you unable to work?
I've had bipolar 1. I've diagnosed since I was 19. It wasn't until recently that 3-4 years ago that I got in a car accident. I was charged by multiple charges in a manic state. And since that, added in weeks, sometimes terminated in 2 months. I think the longest I lasted was 6 months in one job. Unbeknownst to me, my bipolar manics episodes were continuing in work to the point where I wasn't obviously functioning well with others, being very angry, agitated. Sometimes it's blowing up on my boss to the point where I was immediately fired. And after going on for 2-3 years, going from very low-end jobs. I was even a janitor. Then I lost weight. I had talks with my family that I did that with my mother, my wife. They said, you have to apply for disability. And it took me a long time to finally come to the conclusion that obviously there's something seriously wrong, and that I'm not able to operate in a normal world, in a normal job due to this illness.
Okay, that was way too long. Let's go on to the next one. Good, sir. I need you to tell me what your top 3 impairments are.
I'm sorry, my top 3?
Yeah, your top 3 impairments.
You broke up, sir.
Oh, your top 3 impairments, good sir.
My top 3 impairments would be bipolar.
Okay.
1 would be lack of concentration.
Help me out with this. So these are all basically mental impairments. Do you have any physical impairments?
None, really. I have some neuropathy in my arm. Nothing that's going to limit me from a physical standpoint.
When was the last time you worked?
January of 2017.
Okay. So how have you been earning funds since then to be able to go ahead and take care of your family?
I haven't.
What do you mean you haven't?
We've been surviving with my wife's salary and my credit cards that I've maxed out. Okay. My mother also sends me $1,500 a month for my child support so I don't go to jail.
Mm-hmm. Well, why haven't you applied to the court to go ahead and have your child support reduced?
I did. It took me 3 years, and I just got it 6 months ago.
Okay. So walk me through this. You've got 2 families. You're not currently working. What medications are you taking? What side effects do you get from them?
I'm taking Depakote, 1,500 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that causes loss of memory and being sleepy. Lithium 600 milligrams also makes me lethargic. So I practice at 20 milligrams. It makes me feel like a zombie. And I think that's it.
Okay. So help me out with understanding this a little bit more. You haven't been back to work for quite some time. Is there a plan to go back to work?
I've talked it over with my doctor, and obviously this medication is not working. All day bed, and based on this hearing, I told him I don't want to switch my medication, but as soon as the hearing's over, obviously I'm willing to try anything to fix this issue. And if it was up to me, I'd be back making 6 figures in my old job.
So help me out with this. Okay, so you haven't been working for quite a long time. You've been out of work. You had a bunch of jobs. You didn't last at them. I mean, what, you just blowing up on people? Is that what this is? You can't control it?
I think it's a combination of things I was fired from each. Some were sales type jobs that I wasn't producing at the same rate my peers were, and I was others were agitation or getting in a fight with a boss about something really stupid. The cleaning job was probably just lack of focus and concentration, and to the point where things are not getting done and they canceled contracts. So I think it's a combination of things, depending on where my illness is at a certain time, whether it's I'm off the wall screaming at somebody or I'm basically sound asleep with a mop in my hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So walk me. Okay. So you're not really, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not the one that's earning the money right now. So your wife's earning the money. What do you do around the house to help her out, since you're home all the time?
Well, nothing really. She does everything. And she told me, tried, and we got somebody fired from the HOA. And I gave you one job, you didn't do that job. And so now she either does that or she pays the neighbor kid to mow the lawn. Other than that, she takes care of everything. Well,
give me examples of how you were getting into a fight with these individuals over mowing the lawn.
I wasn't getting in a fight with anyone regarding mowing the lawn. That was at my house. I assumed I didn't have a job as a lawnmower. I thought you were asking me if I mowed the lawn at my house.
But you said there were HOA issues.
Yeah. Apparently, if you let your grass grow more than 4 inches, then you get fined. And I wasn't mowing the lawn adequately enough. And after so many fines came in that I did for my wife, and she found out.
Why couldn't you get it back? You don't have a physical issue.
It's the side effects of the medication makes me, I could sleep 16 hours.
So, I mean, you stop working, you sleep all day.
Not every day do I sleep all day. Usually I wake up, I make some coffee or putt around the house.
Mm-hmm.
I really wait for my wife to come home for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We have our conversations in the evening, and then, it's the next day.
Have you ever been in the military?
Sorry, what?
Like clubs, groups, union, anything like that?
No.
What kind of education are we looking at? What did you achieve?
I achieved my bachelor's. I went to school at night for 9 years.
So you got your bachelor's?
While I worked.
Did you get any additional degrees? Any specialized labor, electrician, any certifications, clearances, anything like that?
No.
Okay. So walk me through this. So basically, you had sales jobs. You lost all those sales jobs. You're saying you didn't get along with people. You had an aggression problem. Okay, I understand that. But why can't you just do a simple greeter job at Walmart or something like that?
Well, I actually have tried those simple jobs, being a cleaner working at the a vape factory, putting in small vape bottles in the factory, examining a glass to see if there's glass in it, and putting it in a box if it's bad, or putting it in a different box if it's good. And those jobs, I was fired from.
So you just couldn't control what you were saying, is what you're saying.
In some cases, it was what I said. In other cases, to be quite frank, I was told at Tio's factory, you have to go. And then I found out later from the temp agency that I supposedly touched my nose and touched a bottle, which I didn't even know I did.
Okay, so walk me through this. Basically, you're having a hard time keeping simple job. Why couldn't you just do like a reception job or maybe a security job? Walk me through a security job. You're sitting there, for 6 hour checkpoints along 200 just to show that you've reached that location and then go from there. Why couldn't you do something like that? Why wouldn't that be something within the realm of possibilities?
Well, I think obviously I have skills enough to do that. The problem is that based on my illness and the depression part of not wanting to get up, missing work 2-3 days a week, it's unlike my old sales job that I had a yearly number to hit. So I could decompress and be, out of, basically not even go to work for a week or two, and nobody would be bothered as long as I hit my year-end number. In that security job, I have to show up every day at a certain time, certain lunch break, and when I can't function that way. Some days I just can't get out of bed. Other days I have great energy. Other days, somebody's going to be, if I was a security guard and I saw somebody breaking into somebody's car, I might tweak out and smash them over the head with a rock to stop them because I hate people who steal.
Okay. So, all right. Now, I've asked you enough questions to know what I think you need to work on with this claim. Let me go through a couple of those. That way, first and foremost, you de-escalate your conversation, which you learned at some point throughout your life. You learn to de-escalate your conversation, to slow it down and calm it down, because you know that you'll get excited and probably have a hard time pulling yourself back down. So you are de-escalating. I'm losing energy from the conversation. I'm feeling like I want to fall asleep. I'm feeling like I can't get pulled back into it. I can't get excited about it. Now, the next thing is believe that these issues that you're having are something you should just medically be treated for, or have therapy, or have a life coach or something to kind of get you back on track. It's almost like you're making me believe that like these are bad things and they're happening to you, but there's probably a solution out there because they're really not that severe. So I just feel like you're trying to, get across to me that these are a real problem, but I'm just not believing it. I'm sitting there thinking, well, okay, he probably just needs to go ahead and have some therapy, maybe go to a meeting every, couple of days, maybe go ahead and go to anger management classes, things like that. This doesn't sound like something that would be severely disabling. The other thing too is that, when you talk about basically these people and what's going on and, what happened to you and everything, I don't really do have a problem, right? And I feel like you've spent a lot of years convincing yourself and your wife and your mom and everybody else that you don't have a problem, but I'm just not connecting with you. Like my emotional sympathy isn't saying, man, I feel bad for this guy. Because I just don't feel bad for you. I almost feel like you're I guess that's what it is. You're a retribution person. You're like, I want that person to respect me. If they don't respect me, I'm going to get them. And that's interesting. It makes me feel like I'm not going to get too close to this person. I'm not going to emotionally connect to this person. This person's going to be at some point. So I think that's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm saying this to you personally here, which is, at first, when I got all those charges, I woke up and I was like, how can I be charged with all this stuff? The stuff gets dropped. The judge is like, you need to wear a bracelet with your disease on it. You know, that was his recommendation, other than being put on probation. Yeah, I feel like that screwed me up for getting a bigger time job. And you know, part of me believes I can go back and make six figures. The other part of me is like, hey, listen to your mother and your wife, because they're not going to lie to you, TJ. How do I say this? I've been a Republican all my life. My attitude towards this, 10 years ago would have been, suck it up, go get some fucking therapy and fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have.
Yeah.
Moved to Austin and became a libertarian, I probably would still, So believe me, it took a lot for me to ever even listen to my wife and my mother to do this in the first place.
Right. And that's one of the things that I think what's coming across is this change of emotional context where you're saying, well, I feel like I should be able to be better, and let's call it like it is. Obviously it didn't work. I mean, you were working on it, but it didn't work to the point where you sat back and said, well, I guess they were right. And they came to you and said, hold this pillow. We're having a family meeting. And you were sitting there with the pillow going, you cannot control your emotions. So, and it's not just you being hangry or salty, it's you having an inability to control the emotions. So let me pose this thing to you. Now, when is your hearing? Do you have a hearing coming up or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay, when is it? It's like Monday?
Yes.
Like a couple of days Monday?
Yes.
All right, so that's not even around the corner. We don't even have to that's like looking at the edge of a corner. All right, so there are things that you need to work on. I need you to figure out how to tell a story. I need you to figure out how to better explain why you couldn't do your jobs that make you look like the victim, but also help explain why you're unable to be around other people. And I need you to go into more stuff about how different jobs worked for you. The rest of their life with health insurance for the rest of their life is even better than a Harley or a muscle car or, have beautiful property on the water. It's all better than that because it is security. And I'm going to tell you something very amazing here. The one thing you cannot lose is your wife. And if you do get these benefits, it validates in her head that you are having an issue. It makes it understandable in her head that you are now providing in your own way that you can, which makes it okay and acceptable. And it also allows her to now grow with you in a totally different way in life, which is what you guys probably at this point, which is instead of going down the one road that goes to the right side, maybe go down the happy, and then ultimately get you reinvested into hobbies that make you happy.
Yeah, I have no hobbies.
No, I know you don't. I know you don't. And that's, salesmen sell hobbies, right? Whatever it is, they sell a hobby. The hobby could be work, but they sell it.
And I tell people, I just toot my own horn that you're not talking to. I sold a $250 million global network that hit the annual report. So it's very hard for me to, like I said, it took a lot of discussions with my second wife here and my mother, but this medication just makes me a fucking zombie. It makes me not want to take it.
Right. But keep in mind, that's the thing too. You're hoping to go back to feeling important and selling things of great value. But you got to realize it's something I have a hard time realizing. I'm only starting to come around to it because it had to be beat me with a ruler and a stick and, heavy machinery like a Kubota. That life, when people say to you, life is too short, what they're really saying to you is you need to appreciate your time by doing things that appreciate yourself. And when you spend time doing things that make you feel good for the right reasons, you're going to be a lot happier. But if you're sitting there going, I want to sell big stuff because it makes me feel powerful.
My family, it was more, I think what I enjoyed, respect I got from that,
Well, you tell me this.
I think that was probably.
Yeah, you tell me this though. What is a hobby that doesn't require much to be purchased to enjoy that you'd like to just go try? Just try it, right?
Yeah, maybe gardening. I don't know.
What about going and visiting with your wife all of the different national parks, national forests, national treasures?
Oh, yeah. You got it. Yeah. That's one of them.
Okay, stealing one of mine. I'm going to let you do it because, you know, we shared this time together, so I'm going to give you that one.
He closed this deal. This guy racked up all these bills. He had a great house. His house was just about paid for, but he racked up. He had an awesome RV, an awesome truck. He racked up all this debt. He was in Oregon, and they cut off his credit card, and he wanted to refinance. Now, I was the only person that figured out, all right, get rid of all your debt-to-income ratio is killing it. Get rid of all this debt, and we'll pay it off in the loan. The guy was doing the deal from, like, a state park that had a telephone line, faxing me his Social Security to verify his income. I love the guy. I love the guy. You know, I mean, I was like, here's a guy who finally retired. He's in a state park.
Yeah.
He's driving the RV of his dreams. He knows he's got equity in his house. And he's going to live, you know, I don't know, maybe the guy was going to be broke at the end of the day, but he lived his life.
Something you and I are not good at. that's because look what we're doing on a Thursday night.
You're talking. I was just gonna say, you remind me of me.
Yeah.
That's how I think I survived for that long at AT&T.
Yeah.
When I felt good, I worked 14 hours a day. I worked in Manhattan. You could do deals till 4 a.m. Go to sleep, wake up, 8 o'clock, do it again. You could just keep going, and I could run when I was young. Yeah. I can't. You know, I can't do that now. And I'll be honest, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was gone so much. I was on an airplane so much. It's not the total reason for my divorce, but definitely a facet of it.
Yeah.
And here I thought I was doing the right thing. Go pet your dog.
Yeah.
I've used enough of your time, sir.
No.
I really thank you.
Well, thank you, good sir. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And if you have any further questions, don't be afraid to shoot me a text or an email or whatever, because I know your hearing's around the corner, and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as I can.
Hey, you're priceless, and I really appreciated your talking about dealing with the homeless and stuff, because it tells me you're a good guy too.
Yeah. I mean, they drive me up the wall, and sometimes, you know, you're not allowed to shake, you know, homeless people. But man, if that was legal, I would shake some sense into them.
I will say this, you know, for what it's worth, your style resonates with me, because, you know, being in sales that long, I wasn't the guy on how much does it cost if your network goes down, you know, for 5 minutes. How many people are you going to lose? Just, you know, how many customers are you going to lose? How much money is it going to cost you? I don't give a shit. Like, you can try and beat me up about a price, but I don't care. Right. And your attitude is very similar in the sense of, hey, you might think you're, you know, what got me to call you? Because your line was, you might think you're a freaking genius. You think you're a fucking genius. You don't know anything. Yeah. And
Well, that's how I look at myself.
To call you.
You know, that's if you guys wonder what I do when I'm not doing stuff, when I'm sitting idle state petting my dogs, I'm actually mentally beating myself up about the things I should have accomplished, the things that I should know. And I'm one of those guys who's not, you know, afraid of what I know, because I can usually lock that down and figure out this, you know, metrics to what I need to actually accomplish the thing that I need to do. Highly intelligent. I was not good with academia. I hated it. My sister was extremely good with it. She went to become one of the top veterinarians in the world. And she's now in Fort Lauderdale doing fancy, you know, high-end veterinarian, you know, practicing. But for me, I hated academia. It was very difficult. I hated to do it. I didn't get along with it. I didn't get along with the people. I didn't get along with the teachers. And what I started to realize was that I did not like people passing judgment on me when they didn't know me and when they did know me, because I would then beat myself up significantly more than whatever they would actually say to me. And so I had a very fragile ego. I had a very fragile id, if you will. I had a very fragile comparative state where I did not want to go ahead and integrate my emotional, you know, openings to people. My heart was on my sleeve, but I would quickly pull it in and I would get pissed at myself for putting it on my sleeve. You know, one of those, just, she keeps getting cheated on. She keeps, I was one of those types. And what I've realized now is that I'm going to use a localism, the Winter Parkians, you know, the high-end area, you know, area people that just, you know, they just get on you and they're mean to you and they judge you, which is what is similar to you. So I understand you very well because I have a lot of those things as well. But those people, the mean people that judge you, are miserable. They are miserable at an extremely high level. And for me to spend my life trying to impress them is an impossibility because they don't matter. I don't owe them anything. They're not paying for my food. They're not paying for my happiness. They're not rubbing my back. My toes are not happy, but they're not doing anything about it. So the bottom line is, I work with homeless, like homeless. Like today I saw a couple of claimants in an office that I wasn't supposed to go to, but I had to get the mail, so I had to and you know, they were just waiting. I deal with homeless. And let me tell you the big difference between the homeless, the middle class, and the upper class. The upper class and homeless have one thing that is very common. That's totally different from the middle class. The upper class and the homeless do not trust the media. They do not trust people to sell them on things. They don't trust the advertisements. They all do things by the grapevine of people recommending from known people that they trust. The middle class, right? The middle class, they're all about the advertisements. If you see, you know, M&M, Morgan & Morgan advertising, man, that's good for them. They like that. They see that big commercial. They're like, heck yeah, that must be a great attorney. That's not how the wealthy work. That's not how the poor work.
Exactly.
So what I've realized with this is that the only reason I was successful with working with the poor was that I had to eat my ego. I had to realize that they were going to ask me questions that were super different. I know little niches to get them through. I know little things that will make it happen for them. I know how to shape the claim to get the judge to like those homeless claims. And that is unique. Now, with that said, most attorneys, okay, are not going to take the clientele of homeless people and work with them. However, what I will say is this. Some of the attorneys that are in this area, some of them that are owned, some of the law firms owned by Morgan & Morgan, their attorneys are literally going to homeless camps right now and handing out money. And I know two of them that have done that, and they're doing that to get PI claims. And I'm going to tell you this. There's a lot of ethical concerns with that and why it's wrong and yada, yada, yada. But the moment they give them money, they disappear. They can never get a hold of me. Then it's a problem because they never get access to the brain that they're hiring. They're not hiring back office staff. They're not hiring front office staff. They're not hiring, you know, that. They're not hiring the mailroom. They're hiring this brain. This is the brain they're hiring. So what I had to realize was that this brain is not worthless because it's being used by homeless people. This brain is worth more because it's having to work harder to figure out how to fix their tougher problems. And that's tricky.
Which you would get enjoyment out of, and you're a lot like me. I sometimes think that I get so frustrated at menial jobs I took. One, I'm beating myself up because I know my capabilities, but two, I get enjoyment out of translating from a German attorney to a English-speaking attorney. Well, with my condition, I have all these grandiose ideas. My latest grandiose idea, if you've ever watched Seattle is Dying, but I want to do something very similar for Austin. If you've never seen that documentary, Seattle is Dying, I highly recommend it.
I'll check it out.
You got to check out that documentary, especially dealing with the homeless. You know, again, it'll probably be more of a Republican side viewpoint, you know, but with all the defunding of police going on, and,
scary stuff, really scary stuff. Yeah.
You know, and my thing, you know, they shut down all the mental hospitals. It used to be you couldn't yell at the sky or torment people or anything else, and they put me without her. I might be. That's my biggest fear. I will be the smartest guy on 6th Street in Austin. Yeah. The smartest homeless guy you ever met.
Right. You know, and that's a funny thing. I had a, and when I say a shit relationship, I mean, like, I saw 20, maybe 30 red flags, red blinking lights, and I still went for it. I still did it. And she constantly made me feel inadequate as a human being. And I know that that's a problem because I know that look, you know, I graduated early from college. I graduated early from my MBA. I did everything fast. I was quick. I was brighter than most. And yet this person.
You want to hear something really strange? I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a couple psychologists, right? So here would be my spiel from one I really respected based on what you just.
Yeah.
Everyone has something, and you mentioned it earlier. In your childhood, you were talking about going to school, and you were describing it exactly the same way, where you would beat yourself up more, right?
Right.
What psychologists, what they've said is people, whether they want to or not, they, a lot of times when they find themselves, they revert back to that same exact scenario because that's what that's comfort to them.
Yeah, failure is a good feeling to them. Yeah.
And so even though you cognitively know this, you went back and sought out the same drama that caused you a lot of angst in the past. It's like people who go back to somebody that's beating them up. Maybe they got beat up as a child, and that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
That and they go seek out that same. They don't do it purposely. You didn't do it purposely. Your subconscious mind probably was like, "This reminds me, exactly whatever," and you liked that person, and you felt comfortable, and then you realize, "Holy shit, I'm doing the same thing."
Yeah,
I'm doing the same thing.
It's like shifting into the wrong gear, and yet you're okay with it, but the car doesn't sound that good. But you'll think it'll get better, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a believer you are in the Bible, but I'm telling you, there's hope at the end of the rainbow. It sounds like you got divorced, right? You're single now.
I've never gotten married once, and never got married. And now I'm I'm very, very picky. And, I'm one of those guys that look at every single potential red flag. I overanalyze and I question, how's this going to work? How's this going to fit?
You should check out a guy on YouTube. It's called 33 Secrets.
Okay.
You need to watch that.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
33 Secrets. Now, I on my own, because I guess I like to get a complete experience myself. I will tell you this. The person I married, wow. I met her 9 months.
Yeah.
5 years. Kind of them, everybody's on their best behavior.
Yeah.
After 3, it starts to wane. About 5 years, you know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Do not do anything. I was a millionaire.
Yeah.
At 32.
Yeah.
Now I'm down about 50 grand.
Well, you beat me.
320 grand in child support.
Yeah.
And she has 2 $500,000 homes. I live in a 200,000.
Yeah.
You have got money. You're doing well. You probably got a ton of loans that you got to pay back.
That's student loans.
But
yeah.
If you keep your pace.
Yeah.
The willingness to succeed overcomes all obstacles. So you are going to do great, and because it's not fair to you.
No worries.
And my wife's probably like, "Who the hell are you talking to?"
Oh, well, you better go give her a big hug and a big kiss, and tell her that you're sorry, but you're going to give her hell tomorrow.
All right.
Perfect,
hey,
good sir.
Have a great night. You're a good man.
Thank you, good
man.
sir.
Keep doing what
You
you're
as
doing,
well.
man.
Excellent. Have a wonderful night.
All right.
All righty. Bye-bye. Okay, so perfect, guys. So that was a really good claim. A hearing right around the corner, like right around the corner. He can make some good, strong changes and fix those details because his medical evidence is probably pretty good. His age is great. And his work history shows he worked for a while, had a bunch of failed. They were short-term failed work attempts. Some of them, the claim could go through. Let me go ahead and do another one. Where is Lori on here? Let me see. Keep in mind, guys, I have a tough time reading the little thingy because I'm actually going blind from reading briefs all day. So let me see real quick. There she is. That was my hearing. I guess I could start over or go to appeals council. How do I figure out how long I have to have the last day insured SSD? Oh, Okay, your DLI, date last insured, you just call the SSA field office and they'll be able to tell you what your DLI is. But basically what the quick, skinny, easy rule of DLIs is that, you know, they look to see whether you've worked within the past 5 years. Your date last insured is defined based upon how many quarters of coverage you have, and you have 20 quarters of coverage within the past 10 years. Let me get this real quick. Howdy, madam. Are you Lori, and would you like to know about date last insurers?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm so excited because this is a terribly not exciting topic. So we're going to make it fake exciting. So, all righty.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to know. First, you have to know what your date last insured is, because your date last insured, the moment you get past that date, the moment you go after that day, you can no longer claim that you are disabled and go on to SSDI benefits, because on that day, Social Security disability insurance, your insurance plan runs out. So if you can prove that you were severely impaired before that day, even though you're after that day, but you can prove back in the day before that date last insured, so you're 1 day before or even more, if you can prove it, you're good to go. That's great. You can go on to SSDI benefits. But if you can't prove it, you got a problem. And here's where everybody runs into an issue. They'll have a claim. The claim will have so let's say that you had a date last insured in 2018. Well, I'll give you some specifics. When was the last time you worked?
Physically worked till June of 2015.
Okay.
I got an injury at work.
Okay.
And I was physically, but on my wages on Social Security, it says I did file my taxes, some lawsuit money I got,
Sure.
and which was 2016 and 2017.
Okay.
So I was confused about that.
Okay.
I got denied. I recently got denied, so I'm not sure if what year do they take into account, or do I have time to appeal, or do I do it a new application? I don't know what to do. So
you may be trapped, actually. I had a claimant call the other day, and it was a question of, do I go to appeals counsel? Do I refile? What should I do?
Yeah,
and in his situation, he did not have the option to go to appeals counsel because he was going to wipe out his opportunity to go onto SSDI. So I'm going to give you a little mini timeline. Just one of those things where you can't really see me through like a phone or something.
I could see you, but it's just frozen.
Okay. All right. So here's basically what you need to know. At some point, probably 2018, 2019, you had a date last insured. When was your last decision, or in this case, denial, that you received? What was the date?
It was this week.
Okay. So if your date...
I had a hearing in July.
Okay.
And I just got the denial, but I don't have the letter yet saying why I got denied.
Okay. So if your date last insured is before this denial letter, then you have to at all costs try to go to appeals counsel, because hearing level, you can't claim going back in time to before that last denial to go even farther back to your date last insured. So once you get a denial, if your date last insured is right here a year before your denial, and you then say, okay, I'm going to start a new claim, you can only claim the month after the last month that you got denied. And that's your starting point. You cannot claim any months to reach back to go to your DLI, which means you could essentially be losing your opportunity to attach to your date last insured. The way around it is to go and work a crap job, go earn a couple grand, report it to the IRS, and just move your DLI forward a couple of years.
So you can't do both, do a new application and appeal at the same time?
Not at appeals counsel. You go to appeals counsel, you can't start a new claim. If you get a denial at appeals counsel and you go ahead and apply, and you...
based on?
So the easiest way to think about it is to make an error as to law or fact. Did they not consider all the elements when deciding whether or not you were disabled for a particular impairment? Did they forget to mention a medical person in their brief? Did they not mention a detail that was relevant? Did they get some factual basis of your testimony wrong? It's not about, at that point, are you disabled? It's about, did they go ahead and make an error as to law or fact as a part of the process of seeing if you were disabled. It's hard to think of, but just think one question is, are you disabled? That's why you went to the hearing. The other question now is, was there a mistake in the adjudication as to whether or not you were disabled? They're two different. So it's the low end. Basically, what mostly comes out of that is sometimes a remand back to the ALJ. Very rarely you get an approval. But that remand back to the ALJ, you're going in front of that same ALJ that just denied you. And there's a heck of a lot of ALJs who will just deny you again and cut it off. Because ALJs don't like to be proven wrong. And when it's remanded, what does that do? It proves them wrong.
Okay, I don't know.
So, all right, do this.
Okay.
Go find out what your DL is. Email me tomorrow, and then basically I'll tell you what your options are, because you're only going to have one of three options, and basically one of those three options is going to be the best way to go. So,
What's the process for the how does that process work?
it's miserable. It's 12 to 15 months of sitting and waiting for AAJs. Administrative appellate judges to go ahead, or administrative appeal judges. I call them appellate administrative judges, but it's AAJs basically. They sit on the claim for 12 to 15 months. They make a decision. Most of the time, the decision is just a denial.
Now, within this process of 12 to 15 months, any medical information, can you submit anything else, or is it like closed until they decide?
You can submit additional information so long as it is relevant to the original claim. But if it's not, okay. Here's the thing, you're not really supposed to be able to, because you already had your trial, which was, so they reserve the right to reject it unless it is relevant to the original trial and should have been included, and you have a good exchange of all of their impairments. That's bad.
Yeah, I was so disappointed about that.
So what happens is, because they didn't bring up all of your impairments and the record didn't go into detail about it, guess what? If you try to bring in medical evidence about those impairments to say that they're relevant, stricken. They cannot be allowed in.
Oh, well. Okay.
I have a feeling I'm going to make you very sad tomorrow. It's just terrible. I hate doing that. But look, I'll tell you good, bad, or indifferent exactly what you have to do. I won't sugarcoat. I might a little bit, but I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to come down to and what your only options are.
So if I had wages in 16 and 17, does that push my case out more years?
Which means it moves. Yeah. So think about this way.
Even though I physically worked,
sometimes
I just filed taxes with like with my retirement money. I forgot what it was.
It's gotta be income that basically was used to pay for Social Security related functions. You got to pay the monkey for the monkey to go ahead and move it forward a year. And every $1,200 to $1,300 that you're basically getting, because you achieved, the SGA amount, they gave you, for each one of those that you earn and pay taxes on, they move you forward 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, if you had a job, right, and you earned a little over $5,000 at that job, but then quit, you would have just moved your quarters of coverage analysis forward a total of 4 years, because you can do up to 4 quarters of coverage per year. You earn $5,000 or a little bit more than that nowadays. You're good to go. I mean, at that point, you
at work, and basically my injury happened in 2014. I tried modified duty for 6 months, and they actually released me in 2016. So that was like my last paychecks for vacation hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when they released me, because you have to be medically fit in corrections. So they let me go.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Madame, I will catch up with you tomorrow. I'm going to head over to McDonald's and get some crap food and then go to the post office. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Perfect, guys. I'm going to catch up with you, 20 of these wonderful manila folders or, envelopes through the USPS system on their little machine. I will catch you later. I'm so sorry about the lag. I do have a plan. I didn't get a chance to implement it, but I got a whole new plan. It looks incredibly good. Oh, it's staggered disability resolution, space constitution. It looks super pro, and you're going to see it next week. I'll catch you later with voice. Have fun. Bye-bye.